Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our final best of three of this qualifier for the Insomnia 55 Challenger Cup. We have in the final FM eSports versus Team Infused, both incredibly strong teams, both winning 2-0 in their semi-final matches. Definitely looking forward to an intense final game. What are your thoughts on this game, Jack or Siglas?
Well, I mean, I tell you, I'm not sure I have many because it's too hard to tell, you know. FM, they really looked strong in their last game, but at the same time it was close. Choke also looked very strong. On the flip side, Infused didn't really bat an eyelid at Team Extreme Supremacy. So if you were to go off that, you could maybe argue that Infused has the edge here. It's hard to say though because individually there were some incredible performances from FM. Tundra on his Irelia, as usual, did not disappoint, and Toaster on Vayne. Man, what a beast!
Yep, that is definitely true, and I look forward to seeing how these matchups play out. We can see bans already coming through thick and fast. Azir and Rek'Sai both coming out from the side of FM. Now, Azir, I know for a fact Charlie T plays a lot of that champion. Definitely something that he is familiar with, as well as Rek'Sai. We saw how dominant Memento was in their match against TES. And it's not a surprise to see that champion taken off him. Meanwhile, Rumble. We haven't actually seen Alfari play any Rumble as of yet, but I guess FM knows something that we don't, and they don't want to give that away. Meanwhile, on the side of Team Infused, they've decided to ban away the Aurelia, as we've already discussed. Tundra, very familiar with the champion, as well as Elise. I know Nutri considers Elise an incredibly strong jungler at the moment, so not a surprise ban coming out there. And the final ban will be that Fizz, so definitely removing as many carry potentials away in that top lane.
Yeah, I mean, Fizz, we talked about it yesterday a little bit. There was a level like 9 pentakill on Tundra's Fizz in one game that he played in the bot lane. So he really knows that champion. Same thing with Irelia, very, very scary. I like that they're first picking Victor, even with things like Alistair Open. You know, Charlie T has just been going for that every time he can. It really is one of those champions that Infused want to run all the time if they can. Now, going for a Nidalee here, I think, would be quite interesting. You got to realize Rek'Sai and Elise are both banned out. So, when it comes to the types of junglers that Memento likes, you know, you're looking at maybe like Nidalee or Lee Sin as ones that are still open. I think Nidalee is the preference of Nutri for those sorts of junglers, so picking it away makes a decent amount of sense. Picking it with a Corki too, so you have a lot of poke, very, very strong.
Yep, that is definitely the case, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a Gragas come out of Nutri. Perhaps not on this rotation, as they already know the jungler for Infused. Perhaps they'll hold on and look for more contested champions. So maybe we'll see an Alistair or a Nautilus come out. But I'm a little surprised that the Sivir has been let through. Infused decided that it was worth giving away and prioritizing the Corki. So I guess they're not that afraid of Toaster playing Sivir. And I do wonder what Toaster's going to play instead, because at the moment, I would argue that the strongest AD carries in the current meta are Corki and Sivir, so be interesting to see what comes out. But we can already see that hover from the Gragas and the Alistair, so nice to see that my prediction skills aren't completely out of whack.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that they went with that Gragas. Like you were saying, they already know what's up with the jungle. My thinking is that maybe they're trying to hide something until their last rotation. And I'm curious about what that could be. This is obviously a team that has a lot that they can offer in terms of weird strats. You know, Vayne isn't exactly a weird pick, but it's not one you see that commonly at the moment, especially now that tanks are fading out a little bit. So something like that might be, you know, on the cards for Toaster in the next rotation. We're going to have to wait and see. Meanwhile, for Infused second rotation, what do you think they're going to go for? Alistair would have been ideal in their poke composition. Same thing with Gragas, and if they wanted to send Nidalee maybe to the top or mid lane. So what other good disengaged champions are left?
We might very well see a Maokai Braum come out. We did see that coming out in their best of 3 series against TES. So we do see the Braum hover, and we're going to see the Oriana. So I'll talk about the Braum first. We have seen that coming out from Arfan quite a lot. Definitely one of his preferred champions. And as you rightly said, what they did need is a bit of disengage, and that's exactly what he offers in the form of well, I mean, he's got the Winter's Bite passive, which means that while they're running away, they can get those stuns off as often as possible. But also the large AoE slow that he puts down, as well as the massive shield to prevent any hard crowd control coming out from FN, is definitely a solid way to prevent hard engages and reliable disengages. Meanwhile, I am a little bit skeptical about this Orianna pick. As I previously mentioned, when her flash is down, she's very easy to gank, and I know that Nutri on that Gragas will abuse when your flash is down. So the moment Charlie T has no summoners, I do expect a lot of pressure to be heading towards that middle lane.
Absolutely. And this final rotation here from FM, they're waiting it out as long as they can, but it looks like they're not going to do anything too surprising, to be honest. Sivir makes a lot of sense with what they already had, so does Gnar, and it also denies Gnar as a possible top lane for Infused. Comboing that with Braum and Orianna would have been quite threatening, so I like the fact that they've decided to pick it up for themselves. Now Infused, maybe a Maokai here. We were talking about it earlier. They haven't picked up their top laner yet. I think that would be a reasonable choice for them. It would suit what they're trying to do quite nicely. But there are some other options for sure. I mean, what else do you think they could pick?
Well, as you mentioned, Maokai for the team would work very well, but in the 1v1 scenario, I know that Maokai really struggles against a Gnar, so potentially they might be looking towards a Hecarim. Hecarim definitely offers the carry potential that Alphari likes to play, and it can hold its own very well against the Gnar. The one thing they have to be careful of is the risk of a lane swap. Now, I don't know in that best of 3 series whether or not FM did decide to do any lane swaps, but I'm sure that it is something that they are familiar with.
Oh,
But it does look like we're going to get an Olaf in the top lane.
that's interesting for sure. It kind of changes the dynamic here a little bit too. We were looking at sort of poke with some strong disengage. That's not really Olaf's thing, right? He pokes a little bit for sure, but disengage, I don't know if he knows that word all that well.
Well, what it does offer, right, is for a start, it does very well in the lane against Gnar. While Gnar is very good at kiting, Olaf is very good at chasing because of his throwing axes that he can constantly pick them up. They get refreshed on cooldown, and that means he can continuously keep that slow going. So he can stick to Tundra if he needs to, and the chances of him getting kited are a lot lower. But importantly, is Ziviz is going to struggle. It doesn't matter how much support he gets from Wisdom or from Nutri, they are not going to be able to keep Alphari off him. So their best hope is to shut him down in the early game, and I'm really worried for Ziviz in these upcoming fights because, I mean, as we saw in that last game, when it comes to something like a Vayne versus Sivir, Sivir is not the highest damage output AD carry that's available, so they're going to be relying on a lot of damage to come out from Ziviz, and we'll have to see how well he can survive during these team fights.
All right, well, we will see shortly enough. We are going to head to a quick break before we get into the first game of our grand finals. But don't forget, if you want to find out more information, we've got a bunch of social media links that are going to be in the chat for you guys. We'll be right back. I cannot wait to see which of these two teams is going to be looking to take those BYOC tickets to Insomnia. I look forward to seeing them there. I've got my own tickets. It's going to be great. We'll catch you after the break.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our first game of the final of this qualifier tournament for Insomnia 55. So in this game, we do have FM eSports on the blue side versus Team Infused on the red side. So we're going to do a quick rundown of the lineups for you, just so that you get to know the players a little bit better. So in the top lane for FM eSports, we do have Tundra playing Gnar. In the jungle, we have Nutri on that Gragas. In the middle lane, we have Ziviz playing Victor. And in the bottom lane, we have Toaster on Sivir and Wisdom on Alistair.
All right, well, on the flip side, Infused, they got Alphari in the top lane playing Olaf, Memento in the jungle on Nidalee, Charlie T in the mid lane playing that Orianna. In the bot lane, we got Poke and Arfan. Yet again, we're just watching these guys playing on Corki and Braum.
Yeah, we do. So it does look like fairly standard starts of both sides early on. We see once again that early Tri-Brush ward coming out for Alphari. meaning that they will be able to spot any early invades potentially coming out from FM, but meanwhile it is going to be fairly standard starts for both sides, so I don't expect a lane swap because the Corki